Welcome back, everyone. I am Cas Piancey. I'm joined as usual by my partner in crime, Mr. Bennett Tomlin. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
About as good as can be predicted, I guess.
Fair enough.
Um, it's been a couple of years since we've done a live stream, so for anyone who is currently watching, thank you. Thank you for joining us, and I'm glad we get to do this again. It's been a very long time. We're starting this because we want to talk to everyone about Trump's executive order, which is called Strengthening American Leadership in Digital Financial Technology.
You can
It
call
was,
things anything nowadays, can't you?
you sure can. And you can say whatever you want and just hope to God that hopefully it's illegal, or hopefully it's legal, I guess, even if you're the president. Um, so, yeah,
Everything's legal when you're the president.
I that seems to be the case.
It's like you
So,
don't even pay attention to Supreme Court cases, Cass.
I know, I know. We're getting carried away already, I feel like. I just want to quickly start. I'll let Bennett dive into the beginning of this executive order in a moment. I quickly just want to, in case anyone is unfamiliar, I don't know how many, European or Asian or foreign listeners that we have out there right now who don't even really understand what an executive order is. And so I'm just going to go with the Wikipedia definition here. An executive order is a directive by the President of the United States that manages operations of the federal government. Basically, it is a decree from the President saying, this is a new rule. We have to abide by this. It pretty much exclusively covers the branches of the federal. Like, he cannot say all citizens must do this or whatever. Like, that's not, or at least that's not how it's supposed to work. From previous executive orders, there have been over 14,000 executive orders issued over the lifetime of America. So a lot of them, and they're all enforced unless they are proven to be illegal or rescinded by a new executive order, which is going to play into this executive order as well, that we're talking about today. So yeah, an executive order is just a decree from a president, and it's been widely used. This is not some new thing that Donald Trump is doing. That's not the scary part of this executive order. But yeah, so now that we've gone over what an executive order is, Bennett, can you start us off on this, what we'll just call a crypto executive order?
Yeah, might as well call it that.
Yeah.
That's what it's trying to be.
Yeah.
Uh, and it does a few things. Let's go over. I'm saving the worst of it for last, and I think Cass knows which part I think is the worst. Um,
I assume it's both for both of us, but yeah,
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
there's a few things it's supposed to do. The first thing it does is very basic. Trump sets up his own president's working group on digital assets. Biden had his own president's working group on stablecoins, and there was some other, like the president's working group on banking and finance, also was delegated a bunch of like investigate crypto regulations and issue a report. And I was one of the 12 people in the earth who read the report, and yeah, pretty boring stuff. So that's happening. This working group is going to have a whole list of people, including Secretary of Treasury, Attorney General, Howard Lutnick, assuming he gets approved, Scott Bassent, assuming he gets approved, and the head of the CFTC. They are told that they should, within 30 days,
Yeah. Okay.
identify all regulations, guidance documents, orders, or items that affect the digital asset sector. And then within 60 days, those same folks are supposed to assess whether each identified regulation, guidance document, order, or other items should be rescinded or modified. And within 120 days, so we're a quarter from now so far, or sorry, 180 days, excuse me, 6 months, they are supposed to recommend a regulatory and legislative proposal in a report to the president. That's pretty normal working group stuff. Some
Okay.
of the
So hold
all
on.
feels
So I just want to stop you there for a second, because actually one of the few questions that we did receive for this live stream came from our buddy Nick Day over at CoinDesk, one of the great reporters covering cryptocurrency. If you don't follow him on Blue Sky, Twitter, wherever he is. I highly recommend it. He's an amazing reporter. His question for us was that I'm just going to quote him. He said, "I'm still mulling over this entire thing, but Section 4B might actually be among the most interesting aspects for me. I'm curious if you guys have thoughts on it." And I kind of pushed, I thought he was talking about a different part of the bill because for me, other parts were scarier. But I think his question is that, like, will these regulatory bodies be able to comply with this order of getting this done? I understand
So
for you
that's
and
an
me.
interesting question.
Yeah.
Like manpower, like logistics wise, that's an interesting question. And like that's what I was kind of leading into with the all in this order feels challenging for these agencies to be confident they've really looked at every possible document. Especially since the SEC's stance for the last several years has been these are all securities, and so that would mean all securities regulations or almost all securities regulations would need to be reviewed for how they affect digital assets, which doesn't seem easy. I'll say that much on that timeline.
I think it's particularly vexing for us because it's almost this suggestion that I see happen from people like Elon Musk or Donald Trump or basically these very wealthy capitalists where they're like, government is dysfunctional, it doesn't work, get this done immediately. We know it's easy. Just do it. And I don't think that they're fully comprehending, like, I understand you think you're just talking about a few years of regulatory policy, but you're talking about decades and decades in different realms that don't associate with one another anymore. And
Well,
it's so much work.
and they don't have their nominees in place yet, right? Like Uyeda and Pierce can start some of the stuff over at SEC, but you don't actually have your new chair in over there yet. And I don't know who's left at CFTC at this point to start whatever Trump's going to want to do over there. And so, like, yeah, like you're saying, and that's not counting Treasury or Commerce or all the other people in this working group who need to figure out if any of their regulations on the books may apply to crypto. And that's within the 30 days. And within the 60 days, they need to figure out for each and every one of those if it needs to be rescinded, modified, whatever, which is a lot of work. That feels like a lot of work, especially when you don't want to hire anyone. You want to lay off like half the federal workforce and like all those things. That feels like it makes the work even harder. But that's logistics, and we're in a post-logistics world. We're gonna find out we're still very much in a logistics world, but that's later discussion. We'll get to that in the reflection part of the episode. The other thing this working group is going to do is the thing crypto people have been hoping for. The working group shall evaluate the potential creation and maintenance of a national digital asset stockpile and propose criteria for establishing such a stockpile, potentially derived from cryptocurrencies lawfully seized by the federal government through its law enforcement efforts, which, by the way, is exactly what we predicted. What he was going to eventually do is find some Bitcoins that they can come up with a pretext not to give back or give to anyone and call that a crypto stockpile or whatever. This doesn't actually technically confirm it's going to happen or anything like that, but
It's really interesting too because you and I have gone over so many scams and not just scams, sorry, but like hacks and stuff like that, where the government has ultimately been able to seize Bitcoins, but or other cryptocurrencies, but um, they either sell them or they give them back to a party that had previously had them stolen from them or those kind of situations. This almost is posing like if we seize them, we put them in a big pile, and it is almost the opposite of this. I also want to say shout out to Nick Weaver, a previous guest on our show, who was talking about the Ross Ulbricht case, and Ross just got pardoned, a full pardon, which I think Bennett and I were both like, "Oh, this is good." I've since realized the problem
it should
isn't.
have been a commutation.
It should have been a commutation, and the reason.
I will say both Fortune and Newsweek ran articles today where they reached out to like law professors, and all the law professors they talked to said those Bitcoins are gone and Ross isn't getting them back. his like forfeiture and stuff like that still stands even with a
Okay.
full pardon.
Okay.
There might be, like kind of Nicholas was talking about, some weird lawsuits or things he could try, but I imagine he may just take his donations and choose to avoid any more fights with the federal government.
Well, I believe it would still open him up to some lawsuits from
Yeah,
victims of his crimes. So,
yeah.
so that's still a possibility, if especially if he's receiving donations from cryptocurrency people and stuff. But sorry, that got us a little off track. I just wanted to bring up, like, we're talking about this. Hey, we're talking about this this reserve and how it could be implemented, and I'm just like, we've never, like, that is not how we've ever done crypto in the government.
Yeah, and so my guess is and they're still bound by law to do all the appropriate things with seizure that they're supposed to do. And so I imagine like they're looking to get some kind of exemption or some amount of assets that like don't need to be returned and like aren't part of any realistic restitution or something. But whatever, that's a thing that's happening. The government may or may not at some point in the future have a stockpile of crypto that it does things with. Bitcoiners, at least so far, haven't gotten what they really wanted, which was like exchange stabilization funds to be deployed under like executive pretext to buy Bitcoin. That hasn't happened yet. It's also not getting into like the fact that Donald Trump's cryptocurrency projects benefit from Donald Trump doing cryptocurrency bullshit. But yeah, there might be a stockpile soon.
I also want to just point out that this almost goes against the, like, I can't imagine there's a lot of cryptocurrency folks out there who are like, oh, great. So now the government has an excuse to basically steal your Bitcoin. Like, they have a great excuse now. Like, oh, just say he or she broke a law. He, she, or they broke a law, and they and like now we get their 10,000 Bitcoin. Now we get their 100,000 Bitcoin. Like, they could trump up a charge and just steal your Bitcoin. So I don't think the strategic reserve is happening the way they were hoping, in that it's like a carte blanche rule to just buy as much as you want, you know?
Yeah. It's at least kind of what they want. It's at least all the signals they want, right? Like every single cryptocurrency exec is getting the flashing green light from Trump that go ahead, do whatever you want. You've got our full support and don't piss me off or, I'll kill you. Official acts of the office only, of course. The other part of the executive order is central bank digital currencies. And as we all know, central bank digital currencies are a real threat that's actually going to do some kind of harm eventually, presumably, maybe. It's definitely not like 12 nerds at the Federal Reserve who issue like one paper every 18 months. It's a real threat. And
yeah. No, and let's also, while we're talking about this, I think 2 or 3 CBDCs have been initiated globally so far.
And like what, the sand dollar? Are we
right. Yeah, it's like the Bahamas, and I don't remember exactly. Maybe it was the Central African Republic too, or something.
And like at least one of them like shit canned their project 12 months after it started or something. CBDCs are like a nerdy thing, and most versions of CBDCs that actually exist are for like interbank settlement. Like, it is boring central banker shit. It's not like global surveillance panopticon shit.
And I want to add this too, like, hopefully it can go into our episode description once it goes up, is that we had Rohan Gray on previously to talk about the ECASH Act, which was an attempt by Rohan to start talking about CBDCs in a way where we ensured that there were still privacy measures put in place so that citizens didn't have to worry about the government constantly spying on them with digital cash. And nobody wanted to hear that. Nobody wanted to hear, and nobody cared. So there you go.
And so my Florida crypto bros, Samuel Arms and all of them, got their wish, and CBDCs are banned. He also got his wish, and the Proud Boys are out of prison. So like, he's getting a lot of his wishes right now, which makes me deeply unhappy. That's not the point of this. The point of this is CBDCs can't exist. And by the definition of CBDC, this is the worst part of the order. We're finally getting to that part I teased before. The definition of a CBDC given in this executive order is, digital money or monetary value denominated in the national unit of account that is a direct liability of the central bank. And the obvious problem with this is about 5,000 depository institutions have accounts at the Federal Reserve containing monetary value that's noted on a digital ledger denominated in the national unit of account. That's not to mention the U.S. Treasury's own general account, which is held at the Federal Reserve, or any of the accounts of foreign banks, which are also held at the Federal Reserve. All of these would seem to be, under this definition, a CBDC. So Trump, if this executive order were implemented exactly as written, just fundamentally destroyed the entire banking system.
And more, and I want to, and to be clear, more than the banking system, the financial system, the entire financial system that we understand as it is and as it operates right now would come to a grinding halt, and not the United States would be paralyzed. The entire world would be completely dysfunctional. It wouldn't work anymore. And so that was their offer.
Simultaneous currency crises, multiple countries defaulting on debt obligations, complete collapse of the Bank of International Settlements, and
the idea you could go to the bank and get money tomorrow or use your debit card for anything. It wouldn't happen, is what I need people to understand. Under this guideline that Donald Trump issued hastily and vaguely with wrong definitions and total silliness, he would have ended finance as we know it. And so I know that it's not going to happen. I know it was illegal. I know that legally that is the courts are going to be this is so stupid. And financial experts will all say that too. I'm sure that people at the regulatory bodies are going to be you cannot do this. So I'm not that concerned with it being implemented. I'm concerned that someone is willing to stamp their name on such a stupid rule without thinking about it for half a second. Or I know we've made it so that asking experts anything is ridiculed, but maybe you should talk to anyone at the Federal Reserve. Anyone.
Yeah, that might be helpful. You know what's even funnier? Some of these guys love to shit talk the Bank of International Settlements, right? But do you want to know where they got their definition of CBDC from, and where they thought they could just change a couple words and get away with it? I'm going to read to you the Bank of International Settlements definition of a CBDC from their 2020 report on CBDCs. They define them as a digital payment instrument, that's the part of the definition that's different, denominated in the national unit of account that is a direct liability of the central bank. So they changed digital payment instrument, which might narrow it down to something more like a CBDC, to anything with monetary value, and
Insane.
Blew it up. It almost feels like they asked ChatGPT to rephrase the Bank of International Settlements.
My God. And I wouldn't put it past them.
Because some of the other executive orders, people have accused them of using ChatGPT, and other ones have massive formatting issues, and it is sloppy. There's a lot of sloppiness in a lot of these orders.
Yeah, this is I don't know. I guess that to me is the most worrying part of this order. It's not that any of it's going to be implemented at scale the way Donald Trump hopes. It's not even, and you know what's funny is a lot of it was almost where we didn't get there yet, but a big part of this order is them making a big deal that they're rescinding Joe Biden's previous executive order, which was Executive Order 14067, ensuring responsible development of digital assets. And a lot of the things they say
are identical.
We're
forming a president's working group. They need to give me a report within the year or whatever about this issue.
It's identical, but then the only difference is posturing, right? The posturing of the Biden executive order is
we want to protect consumers,
yes.
And the Trump one is we want to encourage cryptocurrency businesses.
We need innovation and freedom, baby. So that's the main difference in terms of the real stuff that is going to be implemented from this order. But the scary part is that Donald Trump is doing this with everything. Crypto is such a small part of the global economy. And the fact that he was willing to blow up all of finance to issue some pro-crypto executive order tells you that his priorities are so mixed up and stupid that he doesn't even know what hurts him and Elon Musk and David Sachs and his best friends. That is terrifying to me, and it tells me there's no one there to say we need to put the brakes on this stuff for a second at all.
Well, not putting the brakes on is a deliberate part of the strategy, right? Going back to, this goes back to Project 2025 and the stuff that was in the work for this exact circumstance. is they want to kind of blitzkrieg these first 90 or 100 days or things like that, just to try to overwhelm as many things as possible. And that's why you also see them doing, like, in places where they don't have their appointments yet, or where they haven't been able, like, they don't think they can do things by executive order. They're trying to, like, cut off the flow of money to a lot of different things. Like, you saw that with the NIH. You see that with the there was another big money
There's
thing
the new aid restriction where they
Yeah.
stopped all aid to every country except Israel and Egypt.
Yep. Bob Menendez wins again.
Yeah, it's the ramifications for these orders that he's doing are like hurting so many branches of
Well,
people
and
that aren't the enemies that he's trying to unleash this
fundamentally
on.
hurts the full faith and credit of the United States, right? Like, if the
Yeah.
United States is not a reliable partner in transactions, and you've spent the last since Reagan trying to convince everyone that, like, the solution to all these things is, like, public-private partnerships and privatizing these larger things, then the government becoming not a reliable partner also blows that up. Like, even in, like, the stated governing ideology, it's incoherent unless the goal is to, like, inflict harm and destroy the order as it exists.
Right. Apologies. I got us a little bit off, or not really. I mean, is that the next? Is that the next part of this this order? Yeah, the revocation of the executive order.
Yeah, that's most of the order. There's a president's working group. Someday there might be an asset stockpile, and fuck CBDCs and all those nerds at the Federal Reserve who keep writing papers about them. Yeah, I'm talking specifically to you, you couple of nerds. All 15 of you are a threat to our society.
I think it's so. And someone, I've been trying to keep an eye on chat from time to time. So if you have a question, feel free to drop it in there, and we'll try to get to it. Someone asked, what was Donald Trump trying to do with this order? And I think it's fair to say that he is trying to win the hearts and minds of the cryptocurrency industry.
It's a wish fulfillment executive order.
Yeah. It's saying I'm coming through exactly the way that I said I was going to, and I'm here to make sure that you guys are protected. So that's what he's trying to do. If the order was actually executed the way that he has termed it, the financial system would collapse. So it cannot be, the order cannot be justified the way he has worded it, and with the vagueness that he's worded it. But definitely it's just like trying to give a W to the cryptocurrency community. Sorry, go ahead, Bennett.
Well, yeah, it's exactly that. And some small contingent of the cryptocurrency community have been, like, getting pissed at him for cashing in their little industry and doing a bunch of disreputable things with his cryptocurrency projects. And so it's good to, buy them off by signaling you might use the federal government to pump assets that you have a personal interest in. Yeah. That's a good thing. That's how this is supposed to work.
Yeah. And you were going over Trump's I believe the working group. You were naming some of the people. It's going to be.
Yeah, I didn't name all of them. It's a long list.
It's a very long list. Of course, almost all of the people that are being put on this advisory committee are Trump allies, and
or will be by the time he gets his nominees in.
Exactly. So and one of them, and I think someone already pointed, Kyle, and our buddy Kyle in chat already pointed this out.
Yeah.
The Secretary of Commerce is Howard Lutnick, who is basically Tether. Like, this is basically a Tether guy.
He owns a stake in Tether. Did you see that reporting?
Oh, awesome. Good.
Cantor Fitzgerald.
So he is Tether. He is actually Tether.
Tether. And he's divesting his trading business and Cantor Fitzgerald if he gets in. But I don't think he said he'll divest his Tether shares.
Oh, it doesn't. What? Well, why? Why would he?
Why would he?
Also, it's worth in case anyone isn't aware, the crypto czar who's overseeing executive orders like this, who's working with Donald Trump to help issue these orders, is a South African billionaire named David Sachs. So him and Elon, besties, PayPal mafia boys back from the old days, Peter Thiel homies. Are going to be deciding what rules and regulations libertarians, South African billionaires, are deciding what government rules and regulations are going to be acceptable in finance. So it's just it's pretty dystopian to me. It's everything and worse that I imagined so far, is what I would say, actually.
I am. I have been struggling to figure out how to even appropriately like talk about, address, report on like conflicts of interest that are this deep,
Yeah.
this obvious, and that such a large swath of the like power structural and societal permission structure has decided they're not going to engage with.
Yeah. Not just not engage with. I almost think this is like a it's kind of a brilliant play by these guys to bombard us with so much absolute nonsense at all at once that it actually becomes nearly impossible to decipher signal from noise, because like it's all signal, but it's all actually noise then. Like if it's all signal, what are you even able to like are we supposed to be paying attention to the Zig Heil? Are we supposed to be paying attention to the executive orders? Are we supposed to be paying attention? How do you pay attention to all of it? And I assure you that when whatever your domain of expertise is, I don't, we have listeners and viewers from every part of society. When they come for your area of expertise, you're going to be horrified by what they are willing to do to your industry. You will be horrified. It will be shocking and it will be horrifying for you. And we're seeing it play out time and time and time again. If you're a rocket scientist, Elon Musk doesn't know anything about rockets. If you're a car engineer, Elon Musk doesn't understand how to make cars. If you're a programmer, he doesn't know how to code. If you're a gamer, he doesn't know how to play games. Like everything he touches, he doesn't actually know anything about. And I assure you that when Elon Musk and Donald Trump and David Sachs did this executive order, I don't even know, they probably spoke to the biggest scammers in crypto to get their advice, and
Dennis
venture
Porter.
capitalists, and that's it.
Dennis Porter and Cynthia Lummis were the
Right,
advisors for this
right.
one. Uh, yeah, it's I worry about how much damage is going to be done to like broad societal consensus on what is acceptable for people in government to do, what is acceptable for like advisors to the president to do, what is the role of regulators. I am unironically concerned that practically we may be going back to a pre-Pecora commission level of like
Sorry,
securities fraud.
can you just expand on that for our audience?
Sure.
Yeah.
After Black Thursday and all of that, the Pecora Commission was set up with this one loudmouth lawyer
He's talking about the
at the
Great
heart of
Depression,
it.
just so everyone's clear. Like he's talking about a
Yes,
very,
Black
very, very,
Thursday.
very long time ago. Yes, I know. You say Black Thursday, that doesn't necessarily change. I just want to make sure everyone is
Sure.
totally on board with what's happening here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And over a like series of congressional investigations, a bunch of wrongdoing by various banks and other stakeholders in the financial markets were revealed, eventually leading to the establishment of the SEC as we know it now, following like the Securities Acts of 33 and 34. And before that existed, we talked about this in a little bit. We talked about this a little bit in an episode that's coming out in the next few days with Sean Tuffy, where there was like fraud, securities fraud before this period was like a state by state thing. And this fact made it so many securities fraudsters could get away with like blatant and untenable things. And that's where we're going back to. Every single penny stock is going to have a meme coin just to be like Trump. And what can the SEC do about that when Trump has his own meme coin?
And
Every single penny stock is going to have their own like bullshit DeFi project with a governance token. And what is the SEC supposed to do about that when the president has his own bullshit DeFi project with a governance token? Like the cash in from every like huckster is going to be terrifying.
well, and I do want to, yeah, like I want to meet the libertarians here halfway, because I feel like a lot of libertarians and people who are who simply want the smallest government imaginable. I think their belief runs in that more freedom is better, like, period. And I understand why, on a surface level, that sounds correct, but that's freedom from and not freedom for. Like, or freedom for, not freedom from, right? And I think introducing and allowing scammers to have full reign of a financial system and take advantage of people who are financially illiterate is taking freedom from them. You are taking freedom from the financially illiterate, from the people who haven't necessarily earned a savings yet, who have never had $1,000 paycheck, get it, and then get scammed out of it by meme coin hucksters, and like those, giving those meme coin, like, people creating bullshit, garbage, and selling it to people. By giving them that freedom, you are hurting other people, and that is like why we have rules and laws and regulations in a society. That is why you establish these things. You see them happen. We saw this happen. The people losing their shirts in the Great Depression wasn't just rich people. It was everybody. It was everybody. It was particularly poor people and middle class people.
Proportionately poor people.
Right.
And like a lot of the people who blew up on the stock market, like JP Morgan and Co. made it through the Great Depression. The people who were blowing up were a lot of like the upper middle class, like doctors and lawyers who for the first time had access to like security collateralized lending. And you want to know what I bet one of the targets of like their anti-regulation thing is going to be? Security collateralized lending.
Right.
And I think they're going to like try to do that to up leverage even more. And again, we're 1928, like we did this game. We played this. People died. People, like, families were ruined. Businesses collapsed. The economy was shuttered. Like, and there was a whole coalition of like debts and trade things that went into the Great Depression. It wasn't just the stock market like bubble that came before it, but like fundamentally it is like void of anything like a coherent philosophy. It's like a philosophy of absence. It's a philosophy of exploitation.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And I'm seeing a few I'm seeing a few people say repeatedly that stablecoins are central bank digital currencies. I need them to understand that that is not true. Okay. Stablecoins are not CBDCs. Maybe under the Trump, like maybe under the vague Trump term of a CBDC, they could fall under that. But the reality is that Tether does not have access, and Circle does not have access to the Central Bank of America or any other nation for that matter, right? This is a private entity that is issuing something that is supposed to represent a dollar and is not necessarily even backed with currency. Like, it doesn't have a one-to-one backing with currency. It has a one-to-one backing with assets. So this is not like, this is like a money market fund. Maybe our viewers are familiar with a money market fund. It's like a money market fund. It's an offering that you keep in your brokerage account or whatever, in your crypto account, that replaces a normal dollar because for a number of complicated reasons. There could be any number of reasons that this is a choice that someone makes. But I need people to understand that they are not the same thing. They are not the same thing.
Yeah, central bank digital currencies are obviously issued by the central bank, and they are, like, as we mentioned, a direct liability of the central bank. Central bank is obligated to pay you for them. Tether can not pay you for them at their discretion.
The way to reflect on this is, like, a stable coin is a derivative. A central bank digital currency isn't a derivative.
Is the thing. It's a dollar.
It is the dollar. It's the dollar. So it is not a derivative.
It's a Federal Reserve note, basically. Right? It's still backed by Federal Reserve assets, but it's now a digital representation of the Federal Reserve note. So that's, regulations are going to be gutted. SEC, CFTC, Treasury is told to pull back on like some of their sanctions enforcement and the sanction stuff they're doing with crypto. So that's going to become more of a thing. The Trump meme coin is bad. I know I put it in the title, so we should mention it. The Trump meme coin is bad. Presidents shouldn't have meme coins. No one should have meme coins. Meme coins are bereft of any real value.
And this is going to bring up one last point from me in terms of like relatively recent news is that Vitalik Buterin, who is the founder of one of the founders of Ethereum, and as far as I know, runs the Ethereum Foundation, put out a tweet and a post on Blue Sky where he said basically like, "Oh, I'm just not sure these meme coins are good for democracy." Like if I'm summing it up as best as I can. Um, which, as a cryptocurrency critic and skeptic, to have somebody who basically founded the ultimate shitcoin casino until Solana arrived, like the only place you could do this for many years, to be like, oh, maybe this isn't great, is like, maybe this is bad for society and for democracy. It's like, it's just so rich and so disheartening to see that happen where it's like I mean it's better than not saying anything, but it's still just like um a day late and a dollar short, a day late and an Ethereum short or whatever.
It really bugs me at a certain level that Trump is almost without argument a cryptocurrency scammer, and a bunch of cryptocurrency execs who have in the past pretended that they can self-regulate, self-govern, and do things like that are totally happy to embrace this scammer and will suffer very few repercussions in their own industry for that association. And I think that is prima facie evidence that self-regulation is a lie that cryptocurrency executives are telling to rob you. Another thing I realized recently, this is a non sequitur, but another regulation they're going to be targeting is accredited investor laws. The BlackRock CEO was talking about how we need to tokenize stocks and bonds in order to democratize access to stocks and bonds.
Okay, this is something I did a little message about, so I have at least some information on it, and I do want to talk to everyone about this. There is this ongoing myth. Now, I think there's a real myth that financial education and or not sorry not a real myth, a reality in America, that there is a lack of financial education and a lack of access to proper banking and the ability to be advised on what you're getting involved in and that kind of thing. That is a real problem in America. You know what's not a problem, it turns out, is how many people are invested in stocks. 62% of Americans are invested in stock. Well, that doesn't sound, oh, that's not that much, I guess. Only 62% of adults. I mean, it could be a lot more, right? Well, no. Like, when you look at the rest of the world, I think it's 16% of Germany, 20% of China, and like 13% of Japan are invested in stocks. Most countries, they understand that there is a huge risk return ratio here. Like, the risks to doing these investments, to putting all your money into the stock market, is they understand it. So they don't dump all of their money into the stock market. They don't think, oh, I'm so much smarter than my pension fund. I'm so much smarter than a mutual fund. And so I think it's a fake crisis being
Exactly.
created by these rich people. And why would they do that? You ask, why would they care about all of us investing our money? Obviously, they want more money in the market, but the real thing they want is you to trade. That's all they really care about.
Yeah.
They want you to trade over and over and over again. They want to make money on fees.
Well, that's part of it, I think. So I think they want to make money on fees because democratization is a fake thing. It is incredibly easy to open up an account at Robinhood or something similar. And the biggest barrier the remaining 38% of adults have is not having income or having assets to do it, right? For most of them, it's not an issue. Some percentage of that, there's going to be literacy issues or other things around it. But for most of that 35, 38%, whatever, they just don't have the money to invest in stocks and bonds. And that number is so high because of the failure of our national pension system. But that's a tangent we're not going down right now. The thing they want to do, I think, is go after accredited investor laws. Because right now there's a bunch of investments that are too shitty for most people to get access to them. And that's the truth. Listen to me. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, but listen to me. Most investments available to accredited investors are not better. They are very often worse, and are serving very specific functions for very specific investors. And what they want is to be able to take all of their private market shit, all their shit that can't
And dump
IPO,
that shit.
and they want to tokenize it. They want to sell those tokens to you, and they hope that in so doing, they will avoid accredited investor laws, they will avoid securities disclosure laws, they will avoid like regulations on probably self-dealing and wash trading and things like that. That is BlackRock's goal with tokenized securities. Plus, as people in my replies helpfully pointed out on Blue Sky, it makes it easier to do smart contract-based lending of these assets. And I said that that's against regulations, and this person said, but we can just gut regulations. And I said, yes, that's my fear. That's
oh my God, yeah, that made my brain
and so
collapse.
that's the target of like the tokenized stocks and bonds, which you're going to be hearing from the Wall Street people more than you're going to be hearing from like the Bitcoin people over the next 4 years. But Wall Street is going to be pushing that, and it's so they can sell you shit.
For sure. 100%. I'm going to quickly address some questions I got on Blue Sky. And then if anyone does have questions, please keep, throwing them out there. I'm glad people are asking questions about this, because this is such political noise, and like it is actually important for financial people involved in finance or people just interested in this stuff to have an idea of what this is going to look like with the president. But yeah, let me get to this. Someone on Blue Sky asked me, how concerned should I be as a person who has just a regular checking savings account at a normal FDIC insured bank about all of this crypto stuff right now, and about this executive order? And I think for now, I don't want anyone to panic. Like, you shouldn't be pulling your money out of your bank account. That is not my intention right now with this live stream, and with basically us explaining this executive order. There is no emergency for you in your, FDIC insured bank account. You're okay. You're fine. Nothing's happening. Even places that I don't necessarily like Robinhood brokerage, like, you don't need to necessarily be freaking out about that right now. I think the broader question is, this is going to be as you kept terming it, a blitzkrieg. This is going to be a president and a team of billionaires who are going to be throwing so much shit at the wall all at once that it's going to be hard to sit back and be like, uh-oh, how is this going to affect me? Uh-oh, is this going to hurt my financials? Uh-oh, is it like you would have to spend all day watching this stuff, and no one has that time. So I would just start considering what you think the future holds and how you can protect yourself. It doesn't mean panic. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. And these are things everyone should do with their finances anyway, but just how can you protect yourself in the future? How can you make sure that like whatever weird things that they implement with this stuff, with this crypto stuff, or with this digital asset stuff, or with the way that they're just treating the entire financial system, how can you try to protect yourself? It's worth reflecting on.
Yeah, especially since wasn't there reporting that they want to gut the FDIC? They want to eliminate deposit insurance. Like, God, they hate functioning financial systems.
Yes.
They hate functioning systems, period. They just want to shit on every functioning institution or system so that it can never be repaired. But, like, I'm not taking my money out of the bank. What's the fucking alternative? Gold in my mattress?
For sure. No, and I don't, and I see they're in chat right now. Yeah, I know that they weren't saying they were panicking. I just want to make sure that nobody, like, I don't want us saying like, uh-oh, this stuff is not looking good, and politics is effed, and the way these politicians are treating the U.S. economy and the U.S. dollar is not good. I do think it's a time of reflection and concern. I don't think it's a time for like, uh-oh, I gotta do something with my money right now. You're gonna be fine. And then this is something we kind of touched on. Someone pointed out that David Sachs, who is now the crypto and AI czar, won't have to do financial disclosures probably, and whether or not that's something to be concerned about.
Yes.
Of course, yeah. None of these guys are going to do financial disclosures. Elon Musk is going to be doing kinds.
And anyone who does get forced to do a financial disclosure is going to fucking lie, and then what?
Right.
What?
I would assume
the FEC or the Senate's going to come after them in 6 fucking years or whatever.
Right.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I need people to not be. So we all like, you can I think it's fair to say like you don't need to be cynical about your neighbor's intentions or the local grocer's intentions and stuff like that. Like, you don't need to be cynical about that. These guys, Elon Musk, David Sachs, these venture capitalists, these billionaires, they don't deserve your trust. They deserve you to be questioning literally every fucking word out of their mouth. They're lying to you all the time. They're lying to you. So they're bad. It's always bad faith. Always.
Yeah, see, and the only way Sachs could avoid a conflict of interest here would be like complete divestment from Kraft Ventures and like complete divestment across his personal portfolio. And he's fundamentally not going to do that. There's no secret on that financial disclosure thing that's going to shock anyone, right? He's got a bunch of shit coins. He owns a bunch of Solana. He trades tokens that are supposed to be vested. Like, we know the guy. He's a shithead.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry, what else? Is there anything else you wanted to touch on in regards to the actual executive order? I know I've tried to like hit every question that I think we've gotten.
We went over the executive order. Some people in chat asked us about Ross. We mentioned it briefly at the beginning. Both Cas and I broadly were in favor of him being commuted because of the way the case was conducted.
And before people get mad at us, like we've done an episode with Nick Weaver about this. Like, I understand what he did. I do understand. I totally get it. I'm not supporting putting out hits on people. It's not okay. But I agree with the sentiment of, if that is what he is being held in prison for, essentially, really, then you should have tried him on those charges and made sure he was guilty. So, and still, even then, I'm like, how much time do you do for 6 unsuccessful murders? I guess that's a question for a broader that's a broader discussion, not one I want to have. But I do think that they should have tried him for those charges if they wanted to get him and keep him in prison for the amount of time that he was sentenced to. So, but a pardon was bad. Was bad.
And he probably should have been commuted, not pardoned, because like the fundamental charges he was found guilty of, the evidence was strong on, the prosecution was strong on. Those were not the parts that had like the FBI agent or the DEA agent, whichever one it was, that like stole the Bitcoins or things like that. It wasn't like the part of the case that required parallel reconstruction or anything like that. And so those charges were like solid and valid. And so a commutation would have made more sense than a pardon, but a pardon plays it up to the Bitcoiners. And so here we are.
And again, that you have to assume he didn't speak to experts when he did that, because an expert would have said, make it a commutation, right? You don't pardon this guy under those circumstances. So,
but I mean, why not?
Well, for all the reasons that we've discussed. I also, lastly, I did see that somebody had mentioned that China has the CBDC, which is a good point. I want to acknowledge that. Great point.
I thought it was a pilot one that never went into production.
It is a pilot one. It did go into production, and it has largely been unsuccessful. Like over a time frame where Alipay did 17 trillion in volume, the CBDCs did 260 billion. So
260 billion is more than I would expect.
That is, again, over a time frame when
I understand for interbank settlement in China that's comparatively small, but I can do the math. I know a billion is 1,000th of a trillion. I know how numbers work.
I just want to acknowledge that the viewer was right, that it was fair to call that out, and I just want to make sure that they also understand that even though China has this, it isn't a widely used thing in China, and it is not some they've already got the spy network available. Like, if they need to spy on their citizens, they can rely on Alipay. They don't need to worry about having a CBDC. So hopefully, I think we've addressed everything. I think we've gone over everything. If there is any more questions, please get them in right now, because I think we're gonna call it a night here and log off. Hopefully there aren't 10 more of these emergency live streams this year. But who knows? I genuinely don't know. The only other times we've done these are generally when something really crazy happens, and it seems like it's going to be a bad year for that. So
when Juan Carlo Davicini gets clapped in handcuffs in a day, Justin's son didn't even show up for the inauguration. I was doing Wandan speculation, and then he didn't even show.
I was a little surprised, considering how much Justin Sun. For what it's worth, everyone, Justin Sun is I don't know what to call him other than a con man, a crypto con man who basically donated $30 million to the Trump. What was it more?
It's like 70 million now.
Okay. Anyway, to bribe.
Donated to Trump. He invested in a very legitimate Trump enterprise that technically isn't even a Trump enterprise. Trump just gets 75% of the revenue and almost all the tokens.
Yeah.
It's not even a Trump company.
Yeah. And we've also changed how Cascoin is working, and that is going to be the new system. So just wanted to throw that in at the very end of the episode. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Before we close it out, I do want to say, like, we've been very down in this episode, and I do want to say that it is still important for all of us, audience and podcasters here, to, over the coming period, be honest about what we are seeing, be honest about the grifts and things these folks are participating in. In the future, I hope there will someday be a coalition that is unwilling to deal with this level of corruption, graft, and just outright crime. And that is a time I look forward to. And that time comes if we all collectively, like, make it come. And there's a limit to how much we each can do in that. Don't, like, imagine yourself some person who can fundamentally change the course of the world. But it's all right to be like, oh no, that guy actually is really corrupt.
And super important to call them out, while you have an opportunity to. It's like, if you can't fight in any other way, that's a good way to fight.
Though, sorry, we shouldn't add this at the end. It's going to undercut the thing I just said. We'll leave it at that.
That was a good live stream.
Yeah. I was going to add something at the end about, or I was going to add something at some point during this about how I'm worried about the blitz of, like, defamation and libel lawsuits they're about to file, but
yeah, that we can save that for a different episode, like you said. We missed a couple comments.
Did we attend, and do we predict any crashes?
Do we expect any crashes? I would say yes, there's crashes. Oh, BTC. I would say we have an episode on BTC, but I don't know, whatever.